What is going on, everyone? My name is Ghiman Mckinney, or you can just call me Juice because that is my nickname. The NFL draft is virtually impossible to predict. But guess what, guys? I am stepping into the batter's box today. I am taking my swing at it, and I'm going to give you 10 bold predictions for the 2020 NFL draft. These are my bold predictions. These are hot takes based on what I think is going to happen. And without further ado, let's get started. So my biggest bold prediction is that I believe the Colts are going to draft a quarterback. I believe the Colts will get one of the 5 marquee quarterbacks in the 2020 NFL draft. Joe Burrow, Tua Tagovailoa, Jordan Love, Justin Herbert, or Jacob Eason. I believe one of those 5 quarterbacks will be on the Colts roster next year. And I do get a feeling that the Colts might trade back into the first round to select Jordan Love or Justin Herbert potentially, because I do believe some quarterbacks are going to drop in this year's draft. After you get past the Chargers, there's a lot of teams that could take a quarterback, but a lot of teams do not desperately need quarterbacks. And I do believe that there's a chance that Jordan Love or Justin Herbert, and I do believe Jacob Eason will probably be there in the second round, but Justin Herbert and Jordan Love to me are probably going to drop in this year's draft. I believe the Colts are going to prepare for the future. They've got their guy for this year in Phillip Rivers. They went out and traded for DeForest Buckner. They're going all in this year. They'll still use some draft picks to help out Phillip Rivers this year, but I do believe the Colts are a smart team. They're a team that thinks ahead of the curve, and they're going to get their quarterback of the future, because Phillip Rivers, he's on a 1-year deal. He's not the future of the team. I believe the Colts prepare for their future and get their franchise quarterback of the future in this year's draft, and they might trade up to do it. The next bold prediction is that I do believe the Detroit Lions are going to trade down in this year's draft. I personally think this is an easy one. The Lions have said in the past that they are open to trading down. I do believe the draft starts at number 3 with the Detroit Lions. There's potential that the Chargers or the Dolphins or one of these other teams could trade up to try to grab a quarterback. And I do believe the Lions really want to draft Jeffrey Okudah, but I'm one of those guys that are not for drafting a defensive back unless you know they're the next Darrelle Revis at number 3 overall. I would be so much happier if the Lions were to get Jeffrey Okudah at number 5. They still could get Isaiah Simmons if they want to go that route, or Derrick Brown at number 5 or number 6. But either way, I think the Lions realize that picking a cornerback or a defensive back at number 3 is probably a little bit too high. I believe they're going to trade down to 5 or 6. They will probably draft Jeffrey Okudah. If that is not their guy, they will probably take Isaiah Simmons or Derrick Brown. But I do believe the Lions are going to trade down. They'll get a lot of draft picks to help out that defense. This is a win-now year for Matt Patricia, so he needs to load up on the defense. The defense stunk last year. They need to improve that unit. I believe they will by trading down. Also, I believe the Dolphins and the Chargers, one of those 2 teams, or potentially both of those teams, are going to pass on a quarterback. One of those 2 teams with their first overall pick is going to, pass on a quarterback. It could be both, and I'll tell you why. The Chargers are all in this year with Tyrod Taylor. They believe in Tyrod Taylor. They think Tyrod Taylor is their guy. Anthony Lynn is obsessed with him. He says that is his starting quarterback heading into next year. Well, what does that mean? They probably potentially will look to add someone like Isaiah Simmons at number 6 or offensive tackle to help out Tyrod Taylor if they don't trade up or trade down. Okay, I believe the Chargers are all in with Tyrod Taylor. I don't think they are quite sold on Herbert. I don't think they're quite sold on Jordan Love. They could be sold on Tua, but again, Tua has some injury concerns. I believe the Chargers are the team that's most likely to pass on a quarterback in this year's draft, and also the Dolphins. Listen, I do not think the Dolphins are in love with any of these quarterbacks outside of Joe Burrow, and it's very unlikely that they will be able to trade up to get Joe Burrow because Cincinnati is super stubborn. Also, Brian Flores, he comes from the New England Patriots. I believe he's going to be all about taking the best player available, and honestly, guys, Justin Herbert or Jordan Love and even Tua are probably not the 5th best available player at that point. I'm not super high on Tua. I like Jordan Love. I think that he needs time to develop, and Justin Herbert is a super big wild card for me, and I do believe you can potentially get one of these quarterbacks at 18 or 26. They have 2 first-round picks, so they could actually, if they pass on a quarterback at number 5, let's say they take the best player available, the best offensive lineman, the best cornerback, the best defensive tackle, they could actually trade back up into the top 10 because they have multiple first and second round picks. I believe the Dolphins are going to maneuver the draft. They could bring in a franchise quarterback, but I would not be shocked if they pass on a franchise quarterback at number 5. My fourth biggest bold prediction is that Jordan Love and Justin Herbert will both drop in this year's draft. Jordan Love is super talented. Personally, I would draft Jordan Love in the top 10. I believe in him. I would invest in him. I'm the biggest Jordan Love fan on the planet. But I gotta be honest, he has a lot of flaws. He turned the football over a lot. He does struggle at times to get off his first and second read. And I think that's gonna scare off some NFL teams. He's still pretty raw. He's not quite ready to start day number 1. And again, if the Miami Dolphins or the Chargers pass on a quarterback, a lot of teams do not absolutely desperately need quarterbacks. I believe Jordan Love is going to drop in this year's draft. And I do not buy into the rumors that the Chargers are super all in on Justin Herbert. I think that they potentially, at number 6, could go best player available in order to help out Tyrod Taylor. I do 100% believe that Jacob Eason is going to drop. He will probably last to the second round. If Drew Lock lasted to the second round last year, Jacob Eason probably most definitely will be there in the second round. I believe that Justin Herbert, Jordan Love, and definitely Jacob Eason will all drop in this year's draft. All those quarterbacks will probably drop out of the top 10, in my opinion, personally. Okay, up next, the Philadelphia Eagles. I believe they're going to trade up to draft a wide receiver. This is one of the best wide receiver drafts in decades. It's filled with a lot of great wide receivers. Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, Henry Ruggs, Justin Jefferson, Denzel Mims. The list goes on. And I do believe the Philadelphia Eagles are an aggressive team. They will make some trades to get big-time players. They will give up some draft picks. Howie Roseman is all about putting the best product out there on the field for their team. And let's be real, wide receiver is arguably the biggest position of need for the Eagles. Carson Wentz had a lot of wide receivers that dropped passes last year. You know, Alshon Jeffrey, not the same player he once was. Deshaun Jackson can't stay healthy. The Eagles need to add to their wide receiver core. I believe they're going to draft a wide receiver or 2 in this year's draft. And I would not be shocked if they trade up to get CeeDee Lamb or Jerry Jeudy or Henry Ruggs to help out Carson Wentz and give him a number 1 target. They're at number 21, so I do believe they can still get a very good wide receiver at number 21. But Howie Roseman is one of those guys that will trade up if they really, really like a player. I believe they're going to trade up to draft a wide receiver to help out Carson Wentz. Also, I believe that this is my 6th biggest bold prediction. I believe most wide receivers are going to be taken in rounds 2 through 4. A lot of teams will realize that this wide receiver draft is super, super deep. You can get starting caliber wide receivers in the 2nd, 3rd, and even 4th round. Heck, last year, Terry McLaurin, A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, Darius Slayton, and Deebo Samuel all did not go in the 1st round last year. Those are the 5 wide receivers that had the most receiving yards among rookie wide receivers last year. And none of them went in the 1st round. Heck, Michael Thomas, the leading wide receiver from this past year, he was a 2nd round pick. So I do believe teams are going to value offensive line play. They're going to value linebacker play, potentially some pass rushers and cornerbacks and defensive backs. And I do believe that a lot of teams are going to pass on wide receivers in the 1st round more than we will realize. I do believe that Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, and Henry Ruggs will all probably be taken in the top 25, but I do believe that a lot of wide receivers are going to go in rounds 2 through 4. A lot of teams are going to take advantage of this wide receiver depth, and I think that they should, because you can get a lot of great steals in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round at wide receiver. History shows. Also, my 7th biggest bold prediction is that I do believe the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Seattle Seahawks are going to trade down in this year's draft. I think the Buccaneers realize that they need to add to their running back group. They need to add to their offensive line. They need to add to their secondary. Those are 3 areas of their team that they could really improve for next year. I do believe the Buccaneers are a contender next year simply because they added Tom Brady. He's going to bring juice to the franchise, and I do believe Tom Brady being motivated to prove Bill Belichick wrong, that's a scary sight. I do believe the Buccaneers are a team that can win 10 games next year. I really like their defensive front, but their secondary does need work. Their running backs need a little bit of work, and I do believe that they need to just add a couple more pieces to their team to really make them a true Super Bowl contender. Tom Brady loves dumping, passes off to his running backs in the backfield. He needs a good offensive line, and I think the Buccaneers secondary could use an upgrade. So I think that they're going to trade back. They're going to get a lot of extra picks to add to their team, and Seattle as well. I think that Seattle is not convinced that there's a player at number 27 that's really going to instantly help them next year. Seattle is one of those teams that always maneuvers in the draft. They traded down a ton last year. They came into last year with 4 draft picks. They ended that draft with double-digit picks, okay? They ended that draft with over 10 draft picks, so they're a team that's going to trade down. They're going to maneuver the board, and I do believe those two teams will trade down in this year's draft. My 8th biggest bold prediction is that I believe the Packers are going to draft a wide receiver. Listen, outside Devontae Adams, you know, they had Allen Lazard. He was okay. Geronimo Allison was not very good last year. Marquez Valdes-Scantling took a step back. No more Jimmy Graham. They did add Devin Funchess in the offseason. I do like that signing, but I do believe that the Packers front office realizes that Aaron Rodgers is still a great quarterback, but he's getting older. His best days could potentially be behind them within the next couple years. So I think the Packers are going to load up on wide receiver. They need to add to their wide receiver core because outside Devontae Adams, no one else on that team really scares opposing defenses. It showed up in the 49ers game, and the Packers virtually could not move the football. So I do believe the Green Bay Packers are going to take advantage of a loaded wide receiver class, and I do believe with one of their first 2 picks, they will draft a wide receiver to help out Aaron Rodgers. Hopefully Jalen Reagor, because as a Packers fan, I would love to have Jalen Reagor on my team. But there's a lot of good wide receivers. The 9th biggest bold prediction. I believe that the Giants are going to pass on Isaiah Simmons. A lot of Giants fans want Isaiah Simmons. Personally, I think they should take Isaiah Simmons, but Dave Gettleman has been linked to Tristan Wirfs and Jedrick Wills. Those are the 2 offensive lineman that he's looking to potentially draft at number 4. And I will actually not be shocked if Dave Gettleman trades down to let's say, pick number 8, pick number 9, pick number 10. I believe Gettleman is going to be open for business in this year's draft because he's going to need to get multiple draft picks in order to help that defense. And I do believe that they're going to draft offensive linemen because, let's be real, Daniel Jones, he needs some support on that offensive line. The offensive line for the Giants is just not that good. They need a tackle, and they're in the top 4 in a position to get one of the elite offensive tackles in this year's draft. I think that Dave Gettleman takes the boring pick, and I believe he protects Daniel Jones by adding to the offensive line in the first round, in my opinion. I don't think the Giants are going to draft Isaiah Simmons. And last but not least, this is pretty obvious. My 10th biggest bold prediction is that Joe Burrow and Chase Young will be the first 2 overall picks. Joe Burrow will go to the Bengals, and Chase Young will go to the Washington Redskins. The Cincinnati Bengals would be super dumb to pass on Joe Burrow. He is easily by far the best quarterback in this year's draft. He's an Ohio kid, and I do believe that Mike Brown is not going to budge. I believe Mike Brown is stubborn, and he's going to take Joe Burrow, and that's what he should do because Joe Burrow is the best quarterback in this year's draft, and I believe he's the only quarterback that's probably capable of turning the Cincinnati Bengals franchise around, at least among all the quarterbacks in this year's draft. And last but not least, the Redskins. I don't buy into the Tua Tagovailoa rumors. I believe they're going to give Dwayne Haskins a fair chance. He showed a lot of promise at the end of the year. I don't think they're going to move on from Haskins. And I do believe Chase Young is too good of a generational talent for the Redskins to pass on. I believe Ron Rivera adds to that already great defensive line with Montez Sweat, with Matthew Ioannidis, with Jonathan Allen, with Deron Payne, and the Redskins are going to have one of the best defensive lines in the NFL next year, and Chase Young could be a franchise-changing Hall of Fame level player that the Redskins have been desperately needing. So, there you have it. Those are my 10 biggest bold predictions for the 2020 NFL Draft. Be sure to comment where you agree with me and disagree with me. Love to hear what you guys have to say in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching this video today. Please also note that the Juice Alert Sports Podcast is not just a YouTube channel. It is available on all podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts. Also, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this content with all your friends. This podcast is my favorite thing in the entire world right now. It is my passion. And I want more people to listen to this podcast. I really want this podcast to grow. Also, a fun fact about me is that I want to go into the sports broadcasting and media world once I graduate from the University of Toledo, a college in Northern Ohio. I currently am a freshman there right now. I am looking to become one of the next great sports broadcasters and analysts out in the world. And I potentially would like to start my own network if this podcast really truly grows. Or if I fall short of that goal, I would love to work for a big-time network like ESPN or Fox Sports 1. I am open to all networks. So if you believe in my dreams and you see or hear my passion through the screen, be sure to tell all your friends about the Juice Alert Sports Podcast. Stay motivated, you guys. Have a God bless day, and I'm out.